Hello, everyone.
Happy Monday.
Monday. Happy Monday, Shannon.
Happy Monday, Emily.
And happy Monday, Journeyers. It's another beautiful day in on and off the topic world.
Yes, it is. And we are wrapping up a series, our monthly topic, which has been experimentation
Mhm,
for the month. And then
mhm.
for the year, it's exploration, just so you know. And Emily, I have a thing for you. I have the thing.
The topic
Boom.
this week is as we wrap on experimentation, let's talk about how we know one is over. Interesting.
Yeah. I I have been thinking about, so we talked about like the reasons to experiment. We talked about when you're in an experiment, like what to do, what to look for. We've talked about the sort of giving up experiments, like how things work for us. And I was thinking sometimes there's a draw in staying in the experiment, like I'm still working on that thing, I'm still experimenting with that thing, and not switching over into the thing that you have been experimenting for. And
Mhm.
once yeah, that's it. So the I've been thinking about, like, oh well, what are the cues to know that, okay, we're done experimenting here, now it's time to step into the moment, the thing, like make a choice.
Are you thinking about like when you're kind of like trialing or like toying around with things and then like that hesitancy to commit to a thing?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's a perfect. Oh, that's great, especially for the stage.
Mhm.
When we don't commit to a thing. And what is coming to mind immediately is when we, in character, when we're like looking at other people's character, we're trying to figure out in our bodies and maybe in our voices, what character am I about to be? And then instead of committing to a body posture and a voice, you either are just all over the place or you drop it completely and you're just sort of you, which is fine. Be you, be who you are.
It's
But
okay to be you.
right. but but that commitment piece is really important, right? You've experimented with your body, you've experimented with your voice, and now we have to make a choice, right? One more observation with how this shows up on stage is when two characters are talking, but really what it is like two improvisers are talking on stage, and they're having sort of a, not a fight, but this like a meta fight, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, how are you doing? Fine. How are you? Great. Oh, I like your garden. Me too. Just planted it. That's a lot of time we just we spent experimenting. We just experimented with words, who we
Yeah.
are, what we're trying to find out. Oh, okay, now we have an offer here. There's a garden, but we haven't committed to, hey, Janice, I really loved your spaghetti last night. Like, that's a commitment. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I want to talk about that. How do we get out of that, like, play
Yeah,
into
because
the work?
I think the key there is that we're wasting time. We're wasting time and sometimes like being in the feeling out stage and watching the feeling out stage can be interesting, but it kind of stalls, right? Nothing's happening if we're not
Yes.
committed to a thing. And so I feel like, well, my first answer would have been like when you say like when we know it's over, my answer would have been like when you get an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I feel like when we're talking about on stage, it might be harder to identify when we found that answer.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
It's
yeah.
like the answer, I think, gets to a spot where it's not an answer. It's not external, it's internal, right?
Mhm.
do have to we have to make a choice to ask the question or to establish the relationship, establish our character. Like now that we've done the thing, we've like called for our help. Like, okay, Janice is the name of the day.
Yeah.
Janice, come over here. This is a question. I need help. Like, this is the meta thing that you're doing. I need some help. What do you think about this garden? Also meta. I'm not sure where I'm. You're saying I'm not sure where I'm going. I'm still experimenting here. Janice may or may not give you an answer. Oh, I think it's a great garden. Now you're in a space. Okay, I've asked for help, meta wise, like underlying. I've asked for help. Help has come, like a person, a body, but that body is not giving me any extra information. Do I, one, rely on the external, right? Rely on this Janice character to help me together find this explanation or answer, or, and it's the or, just so you know, Jernier, it's the or, or do I internally make a choice? And that's the harder part, because we're taught, right, that we should be collaborating, but truly we want to make choices. We want to practice making choices for ourselves in order for momentum and movement to move forward in the scene.
Yeah. I mean, what we're taught to collaborate, but we're taught yes and, right? And if it's just a bunch of people saying yes, like
Yeah.
the reason the and exists is to push us forward. But if you're like, oh, what a lovely garden, you're right, that is a lovely garden. Ooh, I love gardens. Like you're just saying yes, and you're staying there forever. But if you're like, oh, what a lovely garden, it's overrun by bees, bad bees, which is
Killer bee.
killer bees. And so you have to make the and that's not collaborating. That's
Right.
helping your teammate, right? Helping you both find a direction, something to latch onto. And so I guess you're right, where it just kind of has to feel like the right time to be like, and that is what we're latching onto.
And sometimes the that, and this is what improv is about, right? The that we're latching onto, it is random, right? It might feel completely random. Now we can talk about, well, we're not actually making random choices. We're doing the yes and we're building, we're listening, like all these things. But it can feel very random to just throw something out there. We've been talking about gardens this whole time, and then asking Janice, like, did you, not even asking what, like, oh, I went and I got my tarot read, or there's a dragon. Did you hear about the new dragon? Because this is what Emily and I always talk about on the show. Did you hear about the new dragon that's terrorizing
the dragon this week?
Right? It might feel random, but when we practice that on stage, when we're practicing that, we are also practicing that same intention, or that same, there's a word, it's like momentum, intention, a muscle, let's call it. But we're practicing a muscle that helps us to break the pattern of waiting, right? Yeah. And so when we're out in the world, when we're off stage and we're talking about, okay, I'm experimenting. Sometimes experimenting can be adjacent to waiting, right? Oh, I'm still working on that thing. Well, all right, you've been working on it for a really long time. Maybe let's just grab something.
Let's put a pin in that. Like, it's either like, oh, this is working for me, or, I've been experimenting with this thing for a long time and it just isn't working.
Just isn't working.
It's just, have you ever had like like a fashion item that you're just like, nope, I'm just not this. This just isn't it. That's me and hats.
Yes. Absolutely.
I tried hats, like
Yeah.
different kinds of hats, and I just had to be like, I've spent too much money on hats that I think
Hats.
might work, and I'm not a hat person. I just need to call that one over.
It's true. I like for so long I mean, you do all sorts of things, and I just realized, oh, I'm sorry, I need structure to my clothes. Can't wear I'm not a this person, I'm a that person. And it's okay. That is hard,
Uh-huh.
friend. That letting go of the thing like that you're experimenting with, like this isn't working, I feel like opens the door to a feeling of failure.
Especially if you've sunk time or energy or in the case of clothes,
Money.
money into it, right? I don't have that many hats, but you know what else I realized I'm not a skirt person. And I have so many skirts in this closet. Because
That's
I was
it.
like, well, maybe a pencil skirt. Well, maybe like an A-line skirt. Maybe this. I'm not a skirt person. I
Oh
don't
no,
like the way that like I have to coordinate skirts and tops. Like it just doesn't work for me.
me either.
But at this point, like I haven't cleaned them out, right? Because I'm like, I spent so much money on these damn skirts that it's hard for me to let go and accept that trial period is not is over, you know?
One of the things I'm hearing, so I as we wrap on, let's talk about how we know one is over. One being the experiment. One of the things I'm hearing is duration. Like, how do we know when it's over? Duration. How long have we been trying this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And yeah, how long have we been trying this thing? On stage, that can look like you can think 3 to 5 lines. If you've been trying something, if you've been playing around for 3 to 5 lines and you haven't established character, environment, so any of those things, you're still asking questions about where we are and who we are. That experiment, you can call it
Yeah.
dunsies.
Uh-huh. You can
Like
say that's
maybe,
enough.
yeah,
I either know that this is an avenue I want to go down or it's not.
or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And in real life, I think, and I think this is a question for you, Emily Arnold Fleming, behavioral analyst. What about putting some timelines for ourselves at the beginning? Because sometimes you're in an experiment for 5, 7 years, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe you just don't know. You're just like, well, I sort of like it sometimes and sort of like it other times. But if you give yourself a parameter at the beginning, it might be a little easier to see, all right, what has the duration been this long? What did I say? 5 years to stay in this city or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like what can I do?
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly valid point because that does help you after a while be like, "Oh, I've been doing this for how long and this still isn't working?" Or
Hmm.
or saying like, "This is going great. This is
Right.
going great and I want to continue doing this thing. And I want
Hmm.
to fully commit to this thing." Like, you go somewhere and you're like, I'm going to rent an apartment here for 2 years, right? And if within those 2 years you're like, "Whoa, I love it here. I'm going to buy a house." I don't know if any of us can actually say that because, the world.
The
But
world.
whatever the current equivalent of buying a house and planting roots is,
Hmm.
getting an in-person job in that city or like making a new best friend group in that city.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but then if 2 years passes and you're like, "Yeah, I'm not sold here," you'd already planned for that thing. You'd already prepared yourself to, you probably already gave some thought to what the next step would be, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, we, in our journey to have a little baby, we set a parameter on how long we would try for it, right? Um, I was very explicitly like, I'm getting older. I am perfectly happy to adopt. So we're going to try for this long And if nothing happens, if we're not making any progress, we're going to move forward with adoption. Right.
Right.
It just so happened that the natural stuff worked, but
Mm-hmm.
it helped me and my spouse really to have that timeline for experimentation, to know like, okay, we have an ending point to say yes or no, this isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that, while you're talking about the duration, right? You set a parameter for the duration. You also set a parameter for the what. And you said, we let's try this natural thing. Like, let's try this natural thing. And if this works, okay, great. If not, maybe you had other things in place that you were willing to try, but this natural thing worked. And you said this earlier as well, latching on to something, right? There, when we're looking at, let's talk about how we know it's over. And one of the things, if one of the things is duration, I think the other thing is what has been presented to us that we have not latched on to, or that we can latch on to, right? Because sometimes in an experiment, you get all these, and I'm thinking on this, on the stage, you will get a lot of offers. Sometimes it's not just you. One person is like, "Hey," the other person is like, "Hey." Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's, "Oh my gosh, Jenny, like, it's so good that you're here cooking, because outside the castle there's a hungry dragon." And you know the dragon. All right. So we've got dragons, we've got castles, we've got cooks, we've got all of these offers. What are we gonna latch on to?
Right,
We're
because
gonna
there are so many ways that scene can go in a way that's interesting. It can be, oh no, I need to drop everything to go help with this dragon. It could be, hey, I'm making a risotto, and it means that I have to focus on the risotto. So like I can't deal with this dragon situation right now. It could be, oh no, he's stomping on the flowers in my garden. It could be,
right.
uh it could be any number of things. You're right,
Mhm.
exactly. And so if you there's a possibility that maybe you're taking a minute to be like, how does my character feel about this dragon and the situation I'm currently in?
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, if you're just kind of everyone's standing around talking about, oh no, a dragon, that's bad.
Right.
Yes, that is
Yeah.
bad. Yep, sure is bad.
Sure
Yep.
is bad. Boo. And I think that there is some fear. Okay. Oh my gosh. There is one on stage. There is fear about choosing one of those, latching on to one of those offers. If I choose one of those offers, I'm going to be stuck in this offer. Like, I don't know if I want to cook this risotto. Okay, maybe risotto's not funny. Okay, I'm going to say some, and then you're still not latching on. And I see that as well off the stage, right?
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
How do you know an experiment is over? If you are sitting there in whatever environment or thing that is going on, and the offers that you've had a lot of little offers, and none of them are ones that you want to latch onto, this experiment might be over. It might be time to just like, okay, whatever I'm experiencing. And I'm thinking like jobs. This is classic, right?
Yes.
This is so classic. You are like, I need a job. Then you start getting offers.
Mhm.
None of the offers are what you want,
Mhm.
but you are still just like looking for a job. Meanwhile, you're like knitting, or you're doing improv, or you're cooking, and you sort of, people are like, hey, maybe you should just drop that part and go knit, or drop that part and go something. But it's you're afraid to do that. You're afraid to give up on the experiment because you're not supposed to give up on the experiment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or and it can go kind of like either way, right? Like it could go either it's scary to, make your hobby into your thing that gets you money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on the other hand, like maybe it's like in some cases, and I assume that you're saying this for a friend on behalf of a
Right.
friend and not yourself. But like maybe like one or two of those job officers offers, like maybe they were okay, but we're just being like very like picky about things. Maybe some people I think deal with that. Um, I think you ever have like that friend that you talk to and they're in like a situation like that, and every time like you tell them you like, well, why don't you try this? They like give like some excuse for why that wouldn't work. I think it's exactly that kind of
Absolutely.
thing, right? Um, and so yeah, I think it is like you're bombarded with all these choices, and you have to just it's no longer tenable to just be
Right.
waffling. Uh,
Yeah.
be a professional knitter.
Yeah, do it. Go do it. We
We
support
support you. Drop
you.
us your Etsy page. We will
Yes.
buy. Make me like a little toy dragon. Make us
Yes.
dragons.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Yeah. We this show is sponsored by
yeah,
Dragons and Emily's baby.
yeah. Uh-huh. Make my baby a dragon costume. That'd be
Heck
great.
yeah.
I'm looking for. We always do costumes for his monthly photo shoots. We're looking for some new ideas. Um,
This is so good. It's good. I want to talk about the detriment of staying in the experimentation phase,
mhm.
because there is power in taking control of when it's over, right? There is some power when we make that choice, whether that's on stage or off the stage. We are moving forward in that scene. We are moving forward in our season of life. And I feel like staying in the experimentation stage too long can really get us loopy, right? We can get lost in, because it feels like you're doing something. Even in scenes, it feels like, oh, well, we're talking, like words are coming out of our mouths. So it feels like maybe we're doing something, we're creating something. And like looking for a job, this is an easy way, but an easy example. But, you get into that, like, well, I'm looking for the job,
Mhm.
I'm looking, I'm applying, I'm looking. So it feels like you're doing something, but you're just sort of in this limbo. And I think you can really get to a spot where you feel like you're not being supported, but there is some power in supporting yourself. I said it.
Yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. Because we talk a lot about the community around you and how it's
Mm,
important to lean on them, but you also kind of have to be strong yourself, and you
we
can, and you
we
can do it, right?
we can.
Um, it I say to people all the time that like, you've gotten through this many years in your life to where you are, you've survived all of the things people who are like, oh, this has been so hard. And like you got through all those things though, right? Like, and you're here,
Mm,
and that was you who survived, right? Um, and so it you do at some point have to make your own choice there.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
even if it's I know that sometimes it kind of seems like things just happen to us, but there's
right,
still the choice of what you do after a thing
yeah,
happens, right?
yeah.
Uh, if you want to try professional knitting, but oh no, Joanne Fabrics is out of knitting needles. Uh, is your choice to go home and cry, or is it to go to Michael's and get something?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. The recognition of the fear, right, is also important when I think
Mhm.
about making that choice of whether to go to Michael's or Joanne's. it's like you can also find yourself just sitting in your car, right? And going home because it's too scary or too hot. It's 180 degrees in Texas. I'm not going anywhere. But,
Yeah.
like telling yourself, yeah, this is hard.
Hmm.
This is hard. Especially it's hard when not only because this feels like two different things. Not only might you be a little bit afraid or have some fear in moving forward, maybe you don't even recognize that, but what you might be recognizing is you feel safe in where you are.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And sometimes it's fine to feel safe and comfortable
Mm-hmm.
if that is in line with our favorite V word, your values,
Values.
right? If you are, you know, if you're safe and comfortable and happy in, say, like the city where you live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in the world that's like you have to commit to moving to a new place every few years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you value, like I value being close to my family, right? Um, being here, I can do that. Being here, I can um, live out my other values of like like I value dissemination of my science, which I'm able to do from where I am. I value kindness, which I'm able to do in my various jobs and roles and stuff around here. And so similarly, in other things, it's okay to stay in your safe place, but it's okay also recognize that it's your safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes if there is something that you come across or an opportunity that is also in line with your values might need to push you out of your safe place.
Right.
I think that's what we're talking about here in terms of like when it's important to try to step out of that safe spot.
Yeah. When is that? You've experimented a little bit with being safe. You feel safe. Okay. Are you equipped to move forward now? I
Mhm.
think I it's it if you're joining us at the end, if you just skipped somehow to the end, we've talked about the answer to this question. How do you know? Just duration, right? Like, how long have you been in a space? We've also talked about like the thing. What is the thing to make you change? What offers have you been missing, or at least you're like, okay, I'm not going to take that offer. And then this last one is sort of comfort or feeling safe or knowing that there is fear in moving forward.
Mhm.
And if you're feeling too safe, like, okay, I can just stay here. I'm just gonna stay, not disrupt status quo, or you're finding in yourself that you're feeling scared to move forward. If it's been a long time, or if you have had some offers that you're not haven't taken, you might it might be time to just understand this experiment is done. We need to take one of those offers. We need to uproot the safety here a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, move
Yeah.
forward with our scene.
And I think that is incredibly important to acknowledge that it is scary and that it is
Mhm.
hard, right? There's
Mhm.
no one who's ever going to tell you might look at other people and think like, "Oh, they did that and it must have been so easy for them and they must be so brave and they can do it, but I can't because I'm too scared or it's too hard for
Mhm.
me." But here's the secret is that it's scary and hard for everyone. Everyone. That's a part of the human condition we just don't talk about it that much.
Right. It's true.
So, acknowledge it, try it anyway.
Try it anyway. Take an improv class. Feel good about. Feel practice. That's the thing. Practice
Practice,
stepping out of
practice.
your comfort zone. Uh, and tell us how it goes. Tell us
Yeah.
how it goes. Write us in the comments. Let us know because we want to know how you're doing on and
Off the stage. Goodbye.
bye.